evening, Canterbury. Welcome to NewsMakers. Good to be back with you. It's time to traverse the week's big issues with our esteemed panel, and joining us this week, the chairman of the Central City Business Association, Antony Gough, from Women's Financial Strategies, Sheryl Sutherland, and freelance journalist with the Property Investor and the NBR, Hutching. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be here.
It's very good to have you aboard. It's been a catastrophic week for a slice of paradise in the South Pacific, and we have reeled in horror at the swathe of destruction, the loss of life, and of course the obliteration of those beach resorts that many New Zealanders know and love. Antony, your impressions on the scenes we've observed?
Nobody likes to see the destruction that's been there. I think the real thing is, how can we turn around and help to get them back and make it better, like Thailand, that is now so much better than what it was. There's always the flip side to the coin. Let's flip the coin and get it better.
Sheryl, have you been arrested by the coverage?
Frankly, no. It seems to me to be a replication of all the other disasters that we see, and this is in no way making it seem less bad than it actually is, but I can't see anything coming out of it that is original. I agree with Antony. The most important thing is that the infrastructure is repaired, the beaches are cleaned up, and they get as much help from us and from the states as is possible. A couple of things intrigued me about it. One was Toa declared publicly that despite the death of his aunt, he was still going to fight, which I guess goes to show there's no such thing as bad publicity. And I'm also intrigued by the competition among the volunteer associations for the almighty dollar so they can all go and do their good works. But then, hey, you can colour me cynical today.
No, really?
Yeah, just
really?
for change.
Chris, what were your impressions from the week?
Oh, it was very sad. I've been to Samara a couple of times in the last 2 or 3 years, and it's a beautiful spot. I'm not quite sure how they're going to do the rebuilding, because an awful lot of villages are in that very narrow strip along the coasts where there's some low-lying land, and it's just hard to see how you could relocate a lot of those people. And there are also land ownership issues. You sort of need to have your whānau occupying the area in order to have ownership of it, as I understand it. So it's going to be quite a dislocation for a lot of those people.
Yeah. The press, I think on Thursday, pictured the remnants of Sinalei Resort. I think you've been there, haven't you, to Sinalei? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot. When you're having lunch, you know, you're probably just 100 yards away from the beach, and you can certainly see how it could become a wild place, because it's not like it's a flat sea. You're quite close to the reef, so you have this impression of waves crashing around the place quite a lot. So, yeah, it must have been just terrifying.
There does seem to be a real resilience to the Samoan spirit, doesn't there? I mean, despite all of this horrendous destruction and loss of life, there does seem to be this just reflex position to just get on with it and rebuild, bury the dead, and life goes on. Was that the impression you took from some of the coverage?
Yes.
A great resilience?
Yes, I think it is. It's important that people don't look back but look forward. And I think the Samoans have shown great strength and fortitude, and said, hey, we've got to keep moving. Let's not bury our heads. Let's meet today's problems and move on. Yeah. I take my hat off to them.
One of the other things too that struck me from watching some of the news clips was the absolute gentility, and I use that word in the old-fashioned sense, of the people that were talking to the camera. What a lovely, lovely race.
Yes. And the father who lost 11 members of his family, man, I'm sure the entire nation's heart went out to that fellow last night. Yeah.
I think New Zealand has a real place to play here, Mike. In Christchurch, we don't really appreciate it that much, but if you came from somewhere like Auckland, you'd understand that you were a Polynesian city. And these people have got a great culture and a lot to offer. So really, I think New Zealand is going to play a leading role in this reconstruction.
Yes. On the local front, of course, we were on tsunami watch on Wednesday morning to varying degrees. Some people took it a little bit too far and actually went to the beach to see if they could watch a wave. I don't want to sound cynical like Sheryl, but do you think it's a bit unfortunate that Mother Nature didn't take the opportunity to clean up the gene pool? You know?
Very well put, I think, Mike. That was just the most extraordinary thing. A sightseeing opportunity as a tidal wave. That's amazing. Yeah.
Were you heading for the hills, Chris?
Well, I was pretty keen to pop out to Sumner, or I would have been up the hill. I don't think I would have been down at the ramp at New Brighton. I think that was really tempting fate if there was a real danger.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it would have been fascinating to watch.
Now,
Actually, I wasn't at all worried, Mike, because I'm in the same building as the bishop, so I really felt that
Right. Oh,
any
God would
tidal
be there.
wave would have spared me.
indeed.
Holier than there.
Absolutely.
Yes. Of course, the Civil Defence Minister has ordered a review into Civil Defence's handling of the tsunami warning and the communications. How did you assess the flow of information? Antony?
I thought it was appalling. I was trying to watch on the 8 o'clock news and there was TV1 saying, we know nothing. They're sitting having cups of tea and croissants. You know, that's a critical time. How many tsunamis do we have? That's when they should be kicking into action. I thought our civil defence let us down badly at that stage. To turn it round and give us their advice, listen to your local radio stations, no, we don't know when it's coming. Totally ridiculous.
Now, I'll have to put in a wee word of defence here.
Yes.
It's true that it does appear to me there were problems at national level in communications, but I do know that our local civil defence people were around those beaches up and down the Canterbury coast at the right time, 7 or 8 o'clock this morning, warning fisher people to stay away from the estuaries of the rivers and the beaches. So I think the people down on the ground did do an excellent job. But obviously they need to iron out some of these communication difficulties at head office level.
Were you feeling well informed,
Not
Sheryl?
at all. I was a bit like Antony, was thinking, is this a joke? What do we know whether one's coming or not? It was quite farcical. And some of the comments, and I think it's actually probably as much a PR exercise and, as you say, a communication exercise as anything else. One of the commentators I heard was talking about using a phone tree to warn people of coming disaster, which I thought was absolutely extraordinary.
A phone tree.
A phone tree, that was the phrase he used.
I think it would be good if you could rely on the text messaging arriving on time. I mean, it would be an excellent way to do it. Same as these things like Twitter and Facebook. You know, might sound silly to begin with, but when you think about the number of people that have switched onto it, they're very good avenues for people to use. But I don't know about you, Mike, sometimes I get people sending me a text message and it arrives the next day.
Exactly, particularly if it's from Telecom XT.
Is that it?
Yeah. Just a quickie on Aorangi School, which received a body blow this week from the Education Minister. They have decided to close the school, although there is a 28-day appeal process now taking effect. Do you think the Ngāi Tahu joint venture offer could still save the day? Very quickly, Antony.
Yes, I do. I think it's certainly should be investigated. I think Ngāi Tahu are certainly genuine in what they're saying, and we should be looking and letting the schools and Ngāi Tahu present.
How do you see it, Sheryl?
I've got no idea what Antony thinks she's doing. How is she going to save $2 million by allowing the surrounding schools to expand their roles, no doubt have new classrooms structured and take on new teachers? To me, it looks like 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. It's really a crazy exercise, following hard on the heels from the latest turnaround that she had a few days ago of wanting to sack 770 teachers and then saying, oh, she didn't realise they were teachers. I mean, hello?
Wrap it up for us,
Well,
Chris.
I don't think it's necessarily Ngāi Tahu's job any more than it is the City Council's job to support, say, Canterbury University to build new buildings in the Arts Centre. However, leave you with this thought. Last month, this national government voted an extra $10 million, taking up to about $55 million per year, to private schools to help struggling upper-class families drop their kiddies off at Christ College. Now, we're talking $2 million versus this kind of subsidisation for relatively wealthy people.
So it's a case of priorities, you are suggesting
so,
here.
Mike.
Indeed. All right. We'll leave the good viewer with that thought. Coming up, more local issues, including Madras and Barbados. The great George Up. That is next.
That's extraordinary.